we have a new chair who will continue with the second part of the conference. And Louisa will do that. We'll introduce him.
Good afternoon. I hope you had a refreshing break. So briefly, our chair for the next section for today is currently the CEO of Private Enterprise Federation. He has over 30 years experience in investment banking with JP Morgan and the Federal Bank of New York. Upon his return to Ghana, he also started the Venture Capital Trust Fund under the Ministry of Finance to support SME, especially agri-businesses. Ladies and gentlemen, our chair for the next session is Nana Osei Bonsu.
Nana is making his way up here, and so the rest of you on the high table kindly come back. There are no more presentations. Now we're going to have discussions, so kindly join Nana up here as we prepare to take the Minister for Agri's statement, which will be presented by his representative, Mr. Solomon Ansah.
Well, I'm here to present the keynote address on behalf of the Honorable Minister of Food and Agriculture on this occasion that we are having research findings on Ghana Food Systems Conference. And of course, you can all see the title, The Smallholder in the Ghana Food Systems at the Center for Africa Wetlands, University of Ghana, here. Mr. Chairman, Honorable Ranking Chair, in charge of Parliamentary Select Committee, in charge of Agriculture and Cocoa, the President of the Peasants Farmers Association of Ghana, representative of the donors, invited guests, our gallant farmers, friends of the media, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I wish to thank the organizers of this important forum, which include the Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana, Private Enterprises Federation, Multimedia, Joy News, and the Ghana Agricultural Workers Union for their initiative. And of course, my thanks also goes to the sponsors. That's the Open Society Initiative in West Africa in making this conference a reality. I'm privileged to be given the opportunity to address and share my thoughts on the theme. In fact, food system, as we have all realized from the presentations made, it is the path that food travels from the field until it is consumed. And it includes the growing, harvesting, processing, and packaging, transporting, marketing, consuming, and disposing of the food. It also includes the inputs needed and outputs generated at each step. Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, the subject matter of this forum is within the ambit of the government's plan for food production, from the farm to the table of the consumer, in the interest of the bulk of the people who make this possible are the smallholder farmers. The National Patriotic Party, upon coming into power and taking up the mandate given it by the people of Ghana, set out to fulfill its promise to transform and modernize agriculture in such a manner that the sector would contribute to the economic growth of the country, whilst ensuring food and nutrition security for its citizens. Beyond that, Mr. Chair, ladies and gentlemen, Ghana is a signatory to some global and regional protocols, and all these protocols are geared towards transforming African agriculture that would, and including Ghana, that would eradicate hunger and poverty on the continent. It is therefore imperative that the government delivers on its commitments to improving agriculture. Mr. Chair, government acknowledges the fact that 70% of smallholder farmers are involved in food production in country. More so, these smallholders produce 80%. They consume, 80% of these smallholders produce 80% of the food consumed in the urban areas. Government also appreciates the challenges that smallholder farmers face in food production, some of which include access to improved seeds, high cost of fertilizers, high interest rates on loans. We saw the storage and marketing problems. Distribution problems also came up. And in fact, we have a whole myriad of problems that we are supposed to deal with. The government has taken steps since 2017 to address some of the challenges confronting smallholder farmers through the Planting for Food and Jobs campaign. The Planting for Food and Jobs is anchored on 5 strategic pillars. And these include provision of improved seeds, supply of fertilizers, and I should add quality to it, provision of dedicated extension services, marketing of the produce, including storage, and then e-agriculture. It is worth emphasizing that each of these pillars being used to support agriculture in Ghana is not new. What is different or novel about the campaign is the concentration of all the 5 as a bouquet or a package to support the smallholder farmers to boost agricultural productivity. It became evident that we do things in piecemeal, and here's the case where farmers are having packages so that they can really boost their productivity. Some of the modest achievements of the campaign in 2017 included the following. In fact, 4,400 metric tons of maize, rice, soybean, and sorghum seeds were subsidized under the campaign. There was increased use of improved seeds of the targeted crops from averaging from 11% to 43%. 4 metric tons of vegetable, tomato, onion, and pepper seeds utilized under the campaign. And a total area of 234,101 hectares of maize, rice, soya bean, and sorghum was put under cultivation, giving a total output of 707,150 tons. A total area of 10,946 hectares was put under vegetables. And in fact, the focus vegetables were onion, pepper, and tomato, and the total output was 137,023 tons. 20 second cycle schools, as well as 20 outgrower schemes and nuclear farms were supported with inputs under the campaign. And the campaign, in fact, I should say to a limited extent, because it was the time that the thing was started, 2017, and I know focus will really be on storage and marketing this year. 37 warehouses belonging to the Buffer Stock Company Limited were rehabilitated to stockpile the excess grains and cereals, which means when farmers are not able to sell, we had a Buffer Stock Company which licensed some buyers to make sure that this excess produce was bought from farmers and then sent to the warehouses. Farm gate incomes for the farmers who benefited from the program totaled 1.2 billion cedis. And in fact, the campaign helped to strengthen the local seed industry. When the campaign started, in fact, farmers, or I should say seed producers, were producing their seeds and they were not even having market for it. But when government came in to say that it's going to buy seeds, well, they had to mobilize themselves, and we had the National Seed Trade Association of Ghana that came in strongly to mobilize its members to make sure that quality seeds were delivered. Even though we got some from, we had some imports of maize, which of course I believe the quality, I should say, in quotes, were not good. But this year, what the Honorable Minister and his able lieutenants have done is this. In order to ensure that quality seeds are delivered to farmers, in fact, 3 institutes, Grains and Legumes Development Board, the Crops Research Institute of Ghana, and the Savannah Agricultural Institute of Ghana, those certified seed players that they have been always working with, government has signed MOU with these 3 companies so that they will supply them with foundation seeds for their farmers or for their groups to produce certified seeds of maize. And along the seed value chain, or along the certified seed production, we have the Ghana Seed Inspection Division officers of the Plant Protection Regulatory Services of the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, who have been inspecting these fields at least 3 times, taking some of these samples to the labs to check, even at the areas of processing, bagging. They make sure that everything is done before the certification tag is affixed to the bags. So I assure you that 2018, the seeds that are coming, the quality will be better than last year. Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, we intend to improve on the gains made in 2017 in 2018. And it is worth mentioning that the 2018 implementation focus and modalities, this time it is targeting 500,000 farmers instead of 300,000 farmers. So you could see that we are growing progressively in terms of farmer beneficiaries. Because during the presentation, we realized that we do things in patches. I mean, we really don't grow. But you could see that there is really a strategic plan. There's a strategic plan for this planting for food and jobs. And it shows the progressive beneficiaries from year to year. This time, the focus crops will be maize, rice, sorghum. In fact, in 2017, that one too was, I think it was taken on board. The legumes, the focus will be on soybean and groundnut. And the vegetables, the focus will be tomato, onion, pepper. And in addition to that, 2018, we are having cabbage, cucumber, lettuce, and carrots. And this shows how important the government affects to vegetables, because we really want Ghanaians to take a lot of vegetables. The root and tubers, cassava, will be on board in 2018. And for the input targets, this include fertilizers. NPK, we are targeting around 20,000 metric tons, urea 60,000 metric tons, and organic fertilizer 20,000 metric tons. The organic fertilizer is really good. We always don't have to focus on the inorganic fertilizer, because this organic fertilizer really makes sure that it improves the soil structure. And with regards to seeds, the cereals, the target is 20,900 metric tons, legumes 500 metric tons, and then vegetables 48 metric tons. Cassava, we are taking about 3,000 bundles of the cassava sticks. And this campaign will cover the whole of Ghana. That is the 216 districts in 10 regions. As part of efforts to ensure all year-round production, substantial investments are made to expand the area under irrigation. The One Village, One Dam initiative has been launched for the construction of dams and water structures, ranging from micro-scale to large-scale facilities in selected villages and communities in the 3 regions of the north. Moreover, the One District, One Factory, and the One District, One Warehouse are all projects that will contribute to further address challenges in food production in the value chain. In addition, this will create opportunities for private sector investment, which the smallholders can also take advantage of. In this regard, government will ensure that improved seeds that are obtained from high-yielding and stable crop varieties, and I believe it should be climate smart and are tolerant to both biotic and abiotic stresses, are used by farmers to optimize their yields. The Ministry of Food and Agriculture will strengthen the multi-sectorial approach in dealing with agriculture, as we have met here. You see, a whole range of partners are here to deliberate on the findings of the research, and that is what we always encourage. This will include working closely with other ministries like the environment. We don't have to leave the private sector. Science and technology, the media have to be there, trade and industry, local government. Mention them. And each of them are expected to, of course, perform their roles to ensure that the issues are addressed holistically. As a step towards access to mechanization, government would consider equipment that are appropriate to smallholder farmers. It's something that I think we have hinged on it, such as hand tractors, threshers, planters, and other equipment to reduce drudgery. Our farmers are suffering too much. Back-breaking task. I don't think it's a good thing to do. I do encourage all partners gathered here to use your rich experiences to deliberate on pertinent issues that affect the smallholder farmer, so that your recommendations will go a long way to refine agricultural policies in Ghana to promote a supportive business environment, diversify production, and production for local markets alongside the traditional cash crops. And this will strengthen the smallholder in Ghana food systems. In conclusion, Mr. Chair, ladies and gentlemen, I urge all the stakeholders gathered here to work tirelessly towards the realization of transformation and modernization of agriculture in Ghana. Supporting food production, consumption, providing the raw material base, industry and exports will continue to be the government's leading policy, with particular emphasis on agricultural modernization, ensuring increased incomes and enhanced livelihoods for farmers and their households. Government will not relent in its efforts to support smallholders and other actors in the food production chain to transform agriculture in Ghana. It is hoped that the outcome of this gathering will give the opportunity to all partners to discuss the research findings with the stakeholders and tease out practical recommendations which would be easier for implementation. On this note, I wish you all fruitful deliberations.
Thank you very much, Doc. Thank you. That was a nice picture he painted, but I would like to hear what the situation on the ground is. Because if government in 2017 had done all these beautiful things you told us, and is progressively doing more, or will do more in 2018, why are the smallholder farmers struggling? Okay. I'm sure many more questions will come up from you because you are on the ground and you know what he's talking about. Has it transformed your activity? Has it changed the way you are doing things? Are you less stressful now, or you are still going through the same stress and getting little for all that you do? So we'll hit the discussions, and Dr. Te is smiling because he went on the ground, he found something, and the Honorable Minister's representative is saying something. Now we'll put it together and see what the real situation is. So we'll start. Before then, I would like to take preliminary comment from the representative from Parliament.
Thank you very much. I think we have to look at the causes of food crisis. That's where we have to look. Because he said, if the ministry has been doing all that they said, doctors said they have been doing, how come the small farmer is still confronted with problems? In fact, the problem did not start from yesterday, neither did it start from last year. This problem has been with us for a very long time. It's as old as Adam. The issue of providing support to the smallholder has been with us. But before I continue, I would like to ask the researchers, please write it down. Who is a smallholder? Do you categorize this because of the size of the farm or the income that is derived from their produce? I think it's very, very important. Now let's come to neglects, major causes of food crisis. One, long neglect of food production promotion. Long neglect of food production promotion. Two, intolerable conditions of rural life. Three, inadequate labor supply for agricultural purposes. Poverty in technology and skills. And especially in Ghana, complete absence of basic planning data. With this one, I've heard a complex land tenure system, civil unrest and political instability. And the last but not the least, severe prolonged droughts. These are some of the things I've put down. Then I would like to quote what Professor R.O. Adebayo of University of Ibadan has to say. He says, food crisis is as old as history itself, but there are wide differences in severity when one compares to the advanced countries of that of the less developed ones. Food crisis is a permanent feature of a country which never produces enough, and many African countries fall into this category, said Professor Aro at Adebayo University of Ibadan. Now, I appreciate the efforts of smallholders, especially women, because they are the vehicle driving agriculture in this country. They do the production, I'm talking about women, they do the marketing, they do the processing, and they make sure food is on our table. But my concern here is the wastage after eating, the leftover. What happens to it? What percentage? It's also part of losses. And what do we do with it? Do we use it to feed our domestic animals like dogs and cats and so forth? You see, if you are looking at the production, then you should trace it all the way to consumption. So we all know the problems facing the smallholder. My only concern now, how do we get the youth to take over from our aged farmers? 50, 40 years, 50 and so forth. That is not good enough. There should be somebody who will take over. So when I was the Minister of Food and Agriculture, I was one of the people, the originators of Youth in Agriculture. Their problem is the same. What happened 20 years ago is the same. Credit, they will talk about it. Land tenure system, they will talk about it. They don't have seed, they will say it. And above all, extension services. But please, the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, when it comes to extension services, I always say it every forum when I get the opportunity. What is the ministry doing for these people, the award winners? Farmers Day award winners. They are about 1.5 million award winners when the Farmers Day was established. What are you doing with them? These are the people who are supposed to give support to farmers at the grassroots level. But we are not using them. After we're giving them Wellington boots and so forth, then we drop them. We don't even recognize them anymore. And we say we don't have extension officers. They are the best extension officers that we could use. Why do we give them an award? Because you know they are very good farmers. That's why we give them an award. So please, as much as I admire smallholders, we should also work with the award winners. They will also provide us with the support. And also, the cooperative system is dead. We have Maize Farmers Association, they are there on paper. Beans Farmers Association, they are there on paper. Because you are not powerful enough, it's difficult for you to get your policies through. You want to be individualistic. Farmers Association is there, Beans Farmers, Livestock Farmers Association is there. You don't come together. Please, the fact that you are a smallholder doesn't make you stand alone. Come together, and your organization will be stronger. Then you can graduate to be commercial farmer. Because you will still be feeding this country. Government will still rely on you. But for your information, this year budget, government has budgeted 400 million cedis in case of disaster. But I'm warning you, don't go and bend your farm and come to the ministry and say, we want insurance. No. There will be check and balances. So there's money there for you. And talking about 4 armyworms, we don't anticipate that. We are praying. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Praying alone, I think we have to do more work to ensure it doesn't happen. When it happens, government should intervene early enough. He has money for that, but he's praying it won't happen. All right, so it's time for us to go into the discussions, but we will invite Dr. Charles Abugri, who is the acting CEO of the Northern Development Authority, to talk about Ghana's agricultural policies, smallholder farming, and the food systems. Let's welcome him, please.
Honorables, all protocols observed. I think the appropriate people have spoken about government policy. The Honorable Chairman of the Subcommittee of Parliament and the Minister's representative. I just wanted to reflect on a number of things that might be useful for taking the research assignment forward a little bit. Those may reflect some gaps in the conversation so far, and they may also be useful, as I said, as a guide for research. First, let's note that the livelihood challenges of small farmers and the environment in which they live in is both immediate and long term. The long term is important because then you are factoring into your livelihood calculations a more dynamic approach. Farmers, the farming systems are changing, demography is changing. The farmers of the future would be different from the farmers of today. The Honorable MP talked about the youth. Why are they not in agriculture? But they might be in agriculture in a slightly different way from the production system. So would it be useful in the further work that you are doing that you are also scoping out the way in which farming systems will change in the future and participation in the farming systems broadly? basically, in your interviews, what kinds of things are prospective farmers anticipating to get themselves involved in the broader ecosystem of agriculture in the system? I think this is very important. That more dynamic approach also allows us to deal with one of the problems that has been observed, the question of labor force and the impact of migration in the labor force. What that means is that with time, it is difficult, maybe in the next 10, 20 years, the small farmer of today will probably have that considerably changed in terms of the context in which he or she operates. The second thing relates to the discussion about size. I think again the Honorable Member of Parliament asked who is the small farmer. And he also observed that we have a severe problem with information. Actually, because the last agricultural census happened in the 1970s, we really don't know strictly enough what the average land holdings are. That large information gap means that we guess. We say the average small farmer is 2 acres. If the average small farmer holds 2 acres of land, which we really can't, both in the the food sector, as well as in the tree crop area, which we really don't know for sure, is a 2-acre average the norm for a smallholder? So the norm for a smallholder in a Brazilian small-scale agriculture ecosystem is 10 acres. Anything beyond 50 acres, you are moving into the medium-sized farmer range. But 10 acres and below, you are a small farmer. This question of size is important to consider because it affects costs and efficiency in production. We have been struggling in northern Ghana to deal with this question of mechanization. The biggest problem is how a tractor moves from one small 2-acre farm, travels 20 kilometers to plow another 2-acre farm. That system of smallholder organization is probably too inefficient to be productive, to be as productive as can be. Therefore, in discussing size, we may also need to be a little more relaxed about the so-called big farmer, because a large farm can be an aggregation of small farms. And maybe we should be moving towards an approach that allows these aggregations to happen so that smaller farmers can pool together in a 5-acre, 6-acre, 10-acre, and together there is a bigger farm. That has an impact on the way we conceptualize agricultural infrastructure. So we are supposed to be involved in one village, one dam. But in the work that has been done, first in the earlier organization, SADA, now turned into NDA, we mapped an array of water resources, small, medium, and large. A medium and large scale water resource allows for many small farmers to be aggregated around it, and for the technical assistance to become more efficient, for technology to become more easily applicable, for knowledge to be more easily disseminated, for disease problems to be more easily managed. So the way we conceptualize how we organize the smallholder affects the way we think about the infrastructure necessary to support agricultural productivity. And I would suggest that in that context, it is in this context that we need to start thinking about the livelihood questions, not simply about the immediate, but also the long term. The long term is necessary to put the appropriate infrastructure in place. That means the ecosystem in which a small farmer operates to be as efficient and effective as possible can be both an amalgamation of small farms, but also a participation with bigger farms. Because the participation with bigger farms and partnerships allows costs to be driven down. I give an example. A mechanization solution, if you do not expect the government to buy tractors and give to a farmer, but that a private operator acquires tractors to provide a service, it is definitely cheaper where that player is able to cultivate 500 acres continuously for a farmer and then goes on to plow the 2 acre, 3 acre, 5 acre around it. Because in the end, the volume of services allows this owner of a tractor, for example, to be able to get a return. So it may well be that it is in the interest of the smaller farmer that we adopt an approach which consciously facilitates and catalyzes a partnership, symbiotic relationship between the smaller farmer, the medium-sized farmer, and the bigger-sized farmer. And I think that as a research project, it might be useful to ask these questions. What are the threats associated with that? What are the opportunities associated with that? Practically, where can we find examples of how this works, and so on and so on? That reduces the need for this big farmer, small farmer situation, because in northern Ghana, we've been desperately looking for some big farmers so as to bring, pull up the very, very small farms going forward. And that relationship and the tensions and the trade-offs and so on and so forth are relevant research questions to ask going forward. Okay, in terms of constraints, a friend of mine who is a farmer somewhere says that there are 4 key challenges for agriculture as far as productive agriculture. The first is, and all of them relate to management. The first is water, water, water. So in northern Ghana, where I live and work, where the greatest potential in northern Ghana, I start with Brong Ahafo going up, where the potential for grain, sugar cane, soya beans, all of the food crops, but also non-food crops, await to be harnessed. That's also where the water basins, the key basins of the Volta are for this country. The Oti River, the White Volta, and the Black Volta. It is the area with abundant water and scarce water. And that's the paradox. Over a short period, we have a large flood flow of floods. So for the last 30 years, estimated to be over 40 million cubic meters, almost stable over the short periods in which the rains pound the main basins of the Volta in northern Ghana and Burkina Faso. Our problem is harnessing that water and directing it where it is most needed. That needs a strategic approach. And that strategic approach is not cheap. The overall flood water management of the 3 basins are necessary to secure reliable water sources for small farmers. And when you don't organize that water system well, our knowledge of it is very poor. And we start digging holes all over the place, we could end up making the water scarcity even more. So my issue here for research is to ask the question, if water is an important ingredient for agriculture, small-scale agriculture, since most of our agriculture is small, what do we know about what needs to be done for harnessing water. There's one thing we certainly know we don't know, which is that we don't know how much water lies underground. And yet, it is suggested in parts that underground water systems in some parts of northern Ghana is much, much, much bigger than the surface water systems, and much, much safer for irrigation if you manage it more carefully than surface water systems, because of the high levels of evapotranspiration that happens. Now you need a government, or we need our government, to combine the short-term 4-year cycle electoral pressures of delivering something with a strategic approach, which takes a much longer time to have a result. But that result is more secure because it is carefully thought through. So a strategic approach to understanding and managing both surface water and underground water in the northern half of the country is absolutely critical. And it is important that small farmers ask governments not only to subsidize their fertilizer, but to improve the knowledge necessary to secure livelihoods for a long time. And water is a critical ingredient of that. The second is the management of soils. We have the work that we did over the last 3 years was to pull together information on the soil systems and soil structures. So we have a sense. We even did a bit more, which is pull together all the factors associated with the production of 26 crops. And we did the land suitability analysis for all of them. The truth about the matter again is that our knowledge of the micronutrient structure of our soils across the country is very poor. So we all dip blind, basically. So somebody said in an earlier presentation, why do farmers put their money to produce a certain crop? Sometimes it's the market, sometimes it's historical knowledge of the suitability of a particular crop they have been working on for a very long time. So we run our agriculture on historical knowledge and experience. So when the older and elderly people move, we are stuck with understanding what soils and soil structure is good, for what crops. And the work of Soil Research Institute, there's resources necessary to allow them to map all the soils in great detail, is absolutely critical for long-term livelihoods and productivity of small systems. Okay, we can say a lot more things associated with knowledge. I would like to say that in thinking through the information and the questions about how you secure and improve livelihoods for small farmers, please ask the questions about critical knowledge gaps. One critical knowledge gap we were trying to fill was the registration of farmers and their lands. Actually starts to take farm level production and productivity output, not rough sampling. So we have and set up a system of reporting which gives us a consistent year by year information on farmers, their activities, their inputs, their relationship with the financial system, and their output. So we call it eADAP, Electronic Agriculture Data and Payment Platform. This is absolutely critical. I think the ministry has started it, and I think people like Asante and Nima here, please take that project very seriously because it will square a lot of knowledge gaps. We don't really know who our small farmers are, where they are, what they are doing, and what they are not doing, what input actually gets to the farm in the end, how much of the subsidized fertilizer actually gets to the farm. It is building the knowledge systems for small-scale agriculture that needs to be taken care of. Markets, warehouses, and all of that help. But do know, and I think one of the professors made that point in passing. It was on his slide, but he didn't talk about it, which is planned small towns and planned urbanization. We all move our goods from Navrongo or Burkina Faso and bring it to Kumasi. Why? Because of the urban center. Tamale is beginning to become an urban center. But they are a mess. Once the infrastructure breaks down and you have a gridlock, you increase the cost of transportation. And that becomes impossible. We stop planning urban centers. And the urban center is a critical component of the overall food system. And that's really quite important to emphasize. In any case, the middle classes live there. If the middle, and it's not just the traders and the hotels. It is the financial institutions, it's the middle classes and their families and their increasing consumption habits that provide the demand. So planned urbanization is an important gap of policy. So the link between urban development and agriculture is very clear, but we somehow just don't talk about it going forward. Okay, just one last point, which is the dynamics of the export market. I think the discussion, the concept positions as a dialectic. If we produce for the export market, that seems somehow to be a problem. It doesn't have to be. The systems of production is what is important. The way you manage it, you manage your surpluses are important, because if you don't organize the surpluses for export, you have to borrow for imports. And it's not always the case that if you are not exporting, you are necessarily producing everything for yourself, because partly land suitabilities and various micro conditions makes it difficult to produce everything to scale. Therefore, the export market is important. It is the reason why engaging the work that GAU and others have been doing in trying to understand how the European Union market works is important to ask questions, but also the constraints with our neighbors. One important constraint with trading with our neighbors: most of our roads do not end at the borders of our neighbors. We mapped that in northern Ghana. So if you really want to encourage interaction of small farmers across our borders in the regional trading system, you have a difficulty. They stop sometimes 50 to 60 kilometers to the next border. So the road transport system and how that is mapped also has an impact on food security. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Charles Abugre, Dr. Charles Abugre. I'm learning to keep the doctor there, and so I invite Dr. Irene S. Ejiri. I invite Dr. Irene S. Ejiri, who is the head of Agricultural Economics and Agribusiness Department, University of Ghana, to tell us what she has noticed about post-harvest activities. Thank you.
Okay, so good afternoon, Mr. Chair, and then everybody else. All protocols observed. Okay, so at age 10, I heard about agriculture in primary school, and post-harvest loss was put at 30%. Today I learned about 70% also. And I am happy that Doc is just talking about whether we have enough data, reliable data, to even know where we are starting from. So mine is post-harvest activities of the food system in Ghana. I am looking at it from the structure, conduct, performance paradigm model. So I say that yes, we have crops, livestock, I didn't hear much about it, fisheries, and agroforestry products. And these are subsectors I think Joseph Squared should clarify, so that some of the differences that they present in the food system would come out. Now we have cultivated our maize, our sorghum, our rice, or even our plantain, cassava, yam, and we want to move it from the farm gate. And that's what we define as our post-harvest, and it was well done. But what is the structure of this post-harvest system? There are many actors. Porter will call it those who are handling the operations themselves, and those who are dealing with logistics, and those who are producing or providing other services. I think that what I have come to learn is that, yes, if you take each of the groups I mentioned, whether it is crops, livestock, fisheries, or agroforestry products, you would realize that there is little differentiation, and that itself presents some problem for our agriculture. It suggests that it is standard, and therefore the people who handle it cannot control the next P, prices. And so I was not surprised that the researchers had found that those at the demand side, you call the traders, could negotiate better than those at the supply side. But what I was not happy about is calling those at the demand side extortionists. Because you said you interviewed traders, but you didn't give us their opinions, except for one slide. I discovered that when you were talking about the people you spoke with, other actors who hold hands with farmers were not properly discussed, because Food Research Institute was not mentioned in the post-harvest system. I think it's important that the Ghana Standards Authority and their role, the Food and Drugs Authority and their role, all these actors that work to get the post-harvest system strong, we should know what they do, what they are doing right, and what they are not doing right. We didn't hear too much about them. The second structural character, free entry and exit. There is no law. And I'm happy that we are told that we don't even know how many farmers we have. We don't know. Sometimes in the book they say we have 8,000 cocoa farmers. How many cassava farmers? How many plantain farmers? How many fishermen? You know, we do not have that. Because every season, farmers do the planning during the season, or probably based on how well the previous year went. Therefore, if you have free entry, standard products, many sellers, the only conduct you can have is competitive pricing, and that is very low. So it is not strange that farmers cannot, if farmers cannot differentiate with quality or something else, I am sorry, they cannot also have the power to do cost plus pricing. Look at farmers' practices. I think Joseph Squared, I like to use that, said the food system is planning production. You didn't talk about how farmers plan, so that how traders plan, how the people who handle the primary processing, shelling, winnowing, cracking, you didn't talk about that. How can we compete with rice from outside if these issues are not being hammered? Who is handling it, and how are they doing them? Yes, you mentioned transportation, and I'm happy that I think Doc talked about a policy around it. So I wouldn't talk too much about it. You mentioned the storage issues. Farmers have storage. Again, how do they plan their own farm or home storage facilities to link with the one village, I'm just learning it, one village, one warehouse that is coming up? Because already, Joseph Squared, in 2005, the Millennium Development Authority, under the Agricultural Commercialization Project, that was funded by the Millennium Challenge account, did a whole project on agribusiness centers. And we have heard from our minister concerning rehabilitating. So we have a lot. I had opportunity 2 years ago to work with the Ministry of Finance, and we took the GPS to place all the post-harvest infrastructure, including the warehouses, in all the villages that we could go to in 3 months. There were a lot. So I would say that yes, for me, the issue of how the actors plan to execute their activities is most important. Because if we don't have professional hands, or people are not learning, irrespective of their illiteracy, people learn. I am not too bothered about 42% literacy or 70% illiteracy. What I am bothered about is whether these people can learn. If it is not learning English is illiteracy, can we use the local language to teach people what to do? Yes. I didn't hear much about that. During the break time, I was saying, yes, if the Ministry of Food and Agriculture is not giving enough post-harvest, they've written post-harvest protection, processing information, what about Peasant Farmers Association itself? So I was happy when it was mentioned that we've had 1.5 million award winners. And it was asked, what are they doing? Because I also asked Charles, what is your association doing at the community level? These are the questions I had and believe should be tightened to strengthen our post-harvest activities. I am saying that let the people who handle the food from the farm gate to my table, we mentioned itinerant traders, whoever they are, let them get enough information to plan with so that they can use what they have at the right time to get our food system to work. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I was caught off guard because I was expecting her to finish in 10 more minutes. But that is, yes, that is very good for us. She's finished in good time. Thank you. So we are moving on, and we are going to take some comments from specific groups, and then from there we will open it up for others to speak also. Do we have farmers from Paga here to share their experience? Farmers, kindly make your way here, and you have 2 minutes to share your experience with us. Mention your name so we identify you by name. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Julius Awareja. I'm very glad and happy to be here. I think the whole issue is around policy and how we could strengthen some of these things. Government has done a lot. We appreciated it, but we think that we need to look at how to really address the smallholder farmers. One issue, the seed attached to the fertilizer. It was made compulsory, and the same message was delivered to the MUFA directors. You pick seed, you pick fertilizer. No seed, no fertilizer. It was a big issue. It was a big issue because some farmers were forced to pick the seed. They didn't need it because they need the fertilizer. Now it has increased the cost of production. They sent the seed home, kept the seed, and used the fertilizer, and they had to pay the two. I think that the ministry have to look at how to manage this such that farmers can access the fertilizer, even though the seed is to increase yield. But if you make it compulsory for smallholder farmers, we may lead to somewhere else. Because if the subsidy cut off today, and I don't have the seed that I use, that my parents transfer to me, and I am going to the open market as a smallholder farmer, am I in the position to acquire the seed and get the input that that seed needs to feed to grow well? Because the local, our own seed, even if I don't get the fertilizer, I can get something. But if I don't get the fertilizer with the improved seed, then I go zero. How do we manage this? The other issue is about the distribution of the fertilizer itself. It's very good, but I think there are still challenges. Challenges not because of the Ministry of Agriculture problems, but we as farmers are also contributing it. And I think that two people mentioned farmer cooperative development here. This can help to address this issue. Last year, some of our colleagues can go and register farmers and say, I am a farmer, I have this number of farmers under me. They take the fertilizer in my village, and 2 kilometers they have crossed the border. The agriculture extension officer doesn't have the resources to go see where the group is, to go see how many acres that they're going to use the fertilizer. Now the inputs are off. The ministry is also struggling with dead people. People take dead people voter ID card, go collect fertilizer. These are the issues we are confronted on the ground. How can the ministry, how can the extension officer ensure that the voter ID card are held in the office? The person is there and he has the farm. He doesn't have the means to go to the field. And this is an issue that affects us. Now, in the issue of when our 2 props were presenting, the issue of 7% farmers owe their own implements for land preparation. If you make a policy, how do we address this issue if you say, if I don't collect the seed and I don't collect the fertilizer together, I will not work? You put these 2 things together. We need to look at how to address this issue, because once farmers don't have the implements to work, and you don't look at their capacity, and you box all of us together and say, you must take seed, you must take fertilizer at this ratio. Now I don't have the implements to prepare the land. How do I fit into this structure? The other issue on the commercialization of farming. We also how we are focusing on cash crops. Now, we also realize our weather is changing, and some of these cash crops are failing. If we keep failing the smallholder farmers, and one day our cash crops heavily fail us, where are we going to be? Please, the ministry need to diversify and look critically on smallholder farmers to address their issues, or else, if you want to grow, you grow at your capacity. If you force all of us to grow at a certain capacity, meanwhile we don't really have it, then we can get crash. My last issue is the soil management component. We need to really manage our agro input usage, or else we can lose a lot. We know what living organisms does to the soil, yet our heavily usage of agro inputs is a serious stress to smallholder farmers. I will leave here. Thank you very much for others to contribute.
Thank you very much. Now we take comments from Techiman and Begro farmer representative. Techiman and Begro, please come. You mention your name and then you have 2 minutes.
My name is Asamoah Akoto, but I will say a local language in Chi. I'm paying for a year, and then Central Form here in I don't want to say no joy FM4. The more massam kakra made a tomb paying for anyone say, how I work your form. Said the minister Kayano. Sir, Yenuya Enuani. We are about it, my besoya sing up our mind. You see, a problem I want to say. And near my turn last year, a fire up to neck, you're to meet your car. Abandoned mamma meto. Abandon, sir, which you am half for. Half an hour canoe. Others saw the Bama by Namanato. No, the balance up to now. I ain't since a movie break. And that's why I some can see a pa. There also be my brother, you free no free, or can send me my manager pa. Say, ya sassy. You could anywhere could be a fool, one head and testing assassin and the city and send with you. This will come how new ye. The soon who can cry, Minyaka cry, or Kenya need be ho. Sir, yeah, you be a sort pepper say. Yen Nazareth, I bedroom baby. Nenny matters are but for. Yen Tiasia, any essential officers now, Brossois, so yes, I said over per ye. We are long run and any matters are but for. San in sooner a costa free in Sumo banner. And also Nimaton Cosio. It's a baby that say, I'm penny for a idea. Any agree essential officer for idea. I want to see a queer for you and the boy pa. It will be sre. Kakra, Mr. Betumpa for anyone.
Thank you, Edase. For those who don't understand, one of our colleagues will come and interpret that. But Regina will speak for the Begro traders, and she will also speak Chi. When she is done, we'll get an interpreter to sum it up for us. Regina.
Good afternoon. And name many JP said ne, if we are for you now, yes, ya near ye and penny for a waha. Queer yo a year, a dread dear swear ye. Sir Udo Nasa Tony Bato when Triauka not or the cock. Eh, and your man be fire no, my intimate found could drew into my boca. Ebe mami busumi mi ansa na me say sika na ba no kre wunjini ni but say chire hu say problems when wo koma wontimi force ni pan say chinchina mi jimi sika wontimi force no say chinchina fa mi sika mami ye kuafo madoba ire Tony Baya or select a grade our motto. Or best select ya kodrun ketua. And ketua no ebe 100 in now as in of 40 cities and 50 cities. Me hienska. Me sign their door, me for laborers. Or no betra unko fee. Or mom bedria mammy. Ya beka tasso. Sikana and some. Jisa me kwa bobusia. Makobo busia naba me de abaye adwuma na ewie me ye wie ya mantimi anya good yield bia me de metua ebiem agric officers na ehia yen pa me kai say last year kakra stem boris no mo hayen ena ami wem no so no mo hayen me am for stem boris o kodura eburo ni gina ho ewu utu abo ahyem wo ka cha agric officer wase sign kodo na bagi seed menya sika wen na masen akwa akopla na mababa gi sai seed ni nso atua ka ansa na metimi aye adwuma no mintimi enye nti wase megya adwuma ne to enti we de ye bese ye papa na agric officer say ke be ye de say ene anigie say at least every district biya no ka anya biya years be ye 10 dia ke ye nyanka ye make I say Nkranza district ye ni years be ye 4 kra eye ba ko wo ho no o hwe the whole Nkranza south obeye den no wako weiso ansa na wabedru me so hayen na enim say eyenden ya ye wonkola a omo akọ agric schools a ya tete omo a omo tifi a omo pa adwuma a omo nyanyaaye enso omo akọ omo wo sai nimdie na woso mo boaye ebiem ye na ye free north ye north northerners a ye free north ye papa no matu kwan omo be we en south a ye wa ha say mi gina we mi ni mikrom se me ko mikrom nda menya asase wen na makoye adwuma nti nka ye be ye Ghana fo de nyina yenim say ye Ghana fo ye to abatena enne ukoji asase nne nipa ne de ahan wo nne wo betue sika ne nne nso wo do no na wo de cashew ne duam a hardwin papa so wo ba me community a ni a me kire ne say uko higher sasa we the northerners a ma we en ha ye free of ye bet ka Asante Menu southern part of Ghana no say uko do afu a you rent the land you pay for it but who do afu no the owner of the land or when the right no the cashew adua fam cashew yes o dua wom say do tria asase ne ka do ho me cashew nyini afrim unia no a ubekasa eyi ya papa this year ya make say Nkranza most of the women omunya asase ndo mejina we manya asase ando most of the women ye nya asase ndo nka anya shika the whole Ghana make us Nkranza na ye duane ba first nkwa bin Nkranza south by the end of the April na nanka beans ashase eba June by raba June July nkatie nso aba nso this year die ye betwi akwa akiri pa because most bia ni hu awado eyi ya na eya ahomte edwadie no mejino medidwa makoto nkatie medi akodwom mekoduru ya enkranfo mama tekurade mama friend is en Cape Coast for mama oh ye de ba ye no ye nso ye nya atofo ni ho me so makosom me de women sa na ye no ye tua ne kakra na ya gye na di abadwom nti ye beduru a ye timi ton wi a the following week na obekọ no okotua ni panika hwe se mimi we kura se amanfo de na meso me de koye no so free nkran ba ye no ono nso abesom no nso ama me part payment hwan na metua ne de na hwan na megyae ne de eye din nti e besere se mommoa ye kwa adwuma ye ya na dwadie nso de aboroso wakoji loan ayem hyehye you can sleep untimi na once officer ni fiti apa na wafa dan nchen me pa cho ba mun kan chen se meni ho oba ba gini sika ye tua sika na so a ye kwaji loan na ye tua no weekly every week you have to pay for it until week no wanya wo dwane o wan dwane ye baba ba che o ba de akotena ho unless you pay the money before you are free madam ase mumwaye
thank you So Ben is coming to interpret all that she said, but she was outlining her challenges. She's a farmer and a trader as well.
Okay, thank you very much. So we start from Begro farmer, and he highlighted some issues. I want to touch it on point. First, he touched on the planting for food and jobs. That initially the government, through its policy, said they were to pay 50% of the subsidized fertilizer as well as the seed. But out of the 50%, you can pay 25%, and after farming, you can use your produce to pay the remaining. By the end of the farming season, they had a different communique from the minister that no produce from the farmer is being accepted. Each and every farmer should pay in cash. Now, issue of the kind was abolished, and actually they were disturbed as farmers. Now, according to the man, he said when it comes to farming in Begro area, they just follow tradition. They don't really do any soil test. What they based on most time is our fathers, our forefathers were into this, so we also follow suit. As to whether the soil supports it, that is the challenge. They don't know. So you go into it, you don't know whether you will get the best outcome or not. So the ministry, in terms of policy formulations, you also take into consideration soil tests, which will help them a lot. And as well, he also highlighted on education on the part of farmers. And this comes as a reason of shortage in terms of the extension services. Education is really limited when it comes to their farming activities. Whenever they come across a disease in their farm, they have to rush to MOFA offices at a district level. Sometimes they have solutions, sometimes they have to use their own indigenous ways to solve set things, and it's a challenge. As well, he touched on processing and modern agro practices, that they are most times vegetable farmers. Example, he made mention of being a pepper farmer. At the end of the season, after harvesting, when he doesn't get market for the pepper, what can he do to in a way preserve, or through an agro skill, keep it for a price or an effective day to sell? And these are all skills that the farmers in the area are concerned about. So these are the issues the farmers raised. From Regina, a trader and as well a farmer, she also highlighted on issues of the farm when it comes to diseases that they do face with their crops. And as well as trader, they also sometimes they face such of the disease. They go to the MOFA office, and the extension officers are the best response from them is they have to go and farm again. So they should come for improved seeds and go and farm again. And the reason or concern was, where will she get money to plow again and start farming? And also, this is an issue because they don't have extension officers. According to her, at the area of operation, that is in Kranza South, it's difficult even coming across an extension officer. So at least if the ministry can allocate 10 extension officers to the district, they will be very, very, very happy. Now, she also touched on the land tenure, that they are migrant farmers. They all migrated from the north through marriages and other things. And in this case, they do rent lands from the land owners. But the issue confronting them currently is, irrespective of the crops you are into, let's take it that you are into food crops, you're doing cassava, the owner of the farm have the ability to also plant in on that same land cashew, and tell you, they will just inform you that when my cashew best develops, please leave my land for me, then I'll continue with my plantation. And there is an issue in the region. And even for this farming season, most of the women in the district are not getting farmlands to farm because they are migrant farmers. On trading, she also said the traders are price givers. They will come, they will grade. When it comes to yam like this, they have to grade their yam from grade 1 to the last grade, then give the farmers price. If you fail to sell to them, it means you are like your produce will go spoiled or it will be wasted. So the best thing you have to do is to agree to their terms, then you sell it to them. When it comes to financial services or financial assistance to the women or farmers at the area too, it says it's very, very difficult, because when you take loan to farm, you are to pay the amount on weekly basis, and considering farming as an enterprise, to pay a loan on weekly basis is also a challenge. So when policy are being formulated, you please take into consideration their concerns. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ben. So now you understand why Regina was emotional about it. Yes, so I'll take 2 more comments from you. So if you want to give a comment, you put up your hand. I'll call you. Please make your way here. Your hand went up first. You have a comment. Okay, as you make your way here, let me give it to.
Thank you very much. Yeah. I just want to add something to the first farmer who talked about the planting for food, fertilizer and the seeds. In the case of the Upper East region, as he mentioned, the issue was even that the farmers saw that it was getting late to go into production. So they had to find their ways to source seeds and go into planting. Before the planting for food, the jobs fertilizer came in together with the seeds. So the farmers were asked to take it as package. Now we are already talking about storage, which we all agree that the farmers doesn't have the storage. So if the farmer takes that seed since last year to keep it, because it has no use, he has already planted, but he's asked to take it. So it means that it will go waste. So I just want to plead that we knew that last year it was very late, and we think that this year there must be improvement in the, delivery of the seed and the inputs. Thank you.
Excuse me. The researchers, in terms of farm gate, moving the produce from farm gate to the urban centers or the market or nearby towns, have we thought of using these push trawlers? Because I could not fathom why a woman carrying 1 kilo cocoyam be carrying on the head to date. Why we can do that? Maybe you are saying, and so the peasant farmers. Why is the Ministry of Food and Agriculture still in charge of distribution of inputs? If your organization is that powerful, maybe you will take over from Ministry of Food and Agriculture, and this input, fertilizer and so forth, you'll be responsible for doing that. Could you all answer?
Tamale, don't go out. It is his, he's supposed to tell me who is here and who is not here. So I am sorry. Tamale farmers will call you right after him. Thank you. But to respond to what the chairperson of the Parliamentary Select Committee on Food and Agriculture said, when one of the stories we played earlier, it's from the Volta region, and we saw a farmer, a young lady, who said she tried employing carts to move the vegetables she had planted from the farm to the gate, so at least she will get another transportation means to take it away. Even that gets stuck, so it never gets to the gate.
Yeah, thank you very much. Baba is my name. Yeah, I want to start by commending the research team. This is because some of us who are very familiar with the field saw what they were saying. I mean, we have experienced them. So, a commendation to them. I have made some observations, however. I realize they didn't talk about the institutional challenges. I say this because we now have District Department of Agriculture falling directly under the district assemblies. And for a very long time, we all know that they have been getting quarterly disbursement from the national level to undertake their extension delivery services. Now that they are falling directly under the district assemblies, it is becoming a problem. If you talk to them, they will tell you that they are facing a lot of, in fact, they are not happy. Let me say, they will not say it openly, but they are not happy because of the bottlenecks that they face in actually accessing funds. You know, for a very long time, assemblies have been focusing on other sectors, education, health, and so on and so forth, which is good. But agriculture is equally good, and they even drive a lot of internally generated revenue from agric. And yet, apart from Farmers' Day, they don't do anything about agriculture. So I was hoping that this will have come out. I know that the Canadian government is now funding extension delivery. And it is becoming very good for the agric departments. Maybe that is why it didn't come out, because maybe they are already beginning to forget of the past because of the funding from the Canadian government. But it will have been good for it to come, because this is supposed to feed into government policy. I also noticed that in terms of the determinants of what produce a farmer would prefer to produce, I didn't hear anything on project-based crops. There are a lot of projects that are ongoing, and some of them are focused on specific crops. So there are a lot of farmers who will tell you that I am cultivating this, for instance, soya. I'm cultivating soya because the project is making available resources for us to cultivate it. So I would have wished that it comes out clearly. And I will be happy if Professor Yaro will explain further how farmers are making money out of the silos. You mentioned something like Kadia, because listening to Dr. Irene, I realized that it is very true that there are so many warehouses scattered around, and they are underutilized. You talk to the farmers why they are not utilizing it, they will tell you that they don't have trust in the system. They don't believe that sending their crops to any warehouse is safe. They think that somebody will maybe sell it out and they cannot. So I was hoping to hear all this in the research report. I think I'll end here.
Thank you. Farmers. Please.
I'm from Tama. That's the biggest farmers in the Ghana. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. We thought that Tama people have been called first, because Ghana, Tama, we are the largest producer of farm crops. But we are calling, yes. But we are to give the yellow card, but I won't give now. Yes, my name is Haruna Isa. I am a Assembly member for Savlo Municipal. I am also a Municipal Agriculture Subcommittee Chairman at the Assembly. Yes, planting for food and jobs, it was a very good initiative. But back at our place, when fertilizers were supplying, in fact, it will come to the district level and will distribute it to the zonal level. When it comes to our zone, in fact, it was to come, our place, Yara fertilizer was suitable for our crops. But the fertilizer they brought was RMG. It wasn't suitable for our crops. So in that place, we were failed of getting good yield. And again, it was to come with ammonia. But when this RMG came, before ammonia came, the crops were already about 8 weeks ago. So nobody has been picking the ammonia. It wasn't a good use again. And again, I was thinking that the representative of the minister will have told us that government is taking a preventive measures to do all what means to be able to, to prevent these fall armyworms. Because back at our place, a lot of farmers were loose because of this whole army worms. And again, even if you get good yield from your farm, in fact, getting marketing was a problem. Up to now, it's still a problem. Most of us are engaged into so many farms. Like, I'm a nucleus farmer. I have about 850 women who are all farmers. Yes. So when they all farm this maize, out of them, only 25 people are ready to get maize. All of them have been lost because of the fall army worms. And I want to also add that one of the presenters were saying that using a lot of money buying a new tractor for farmer, in fact, is no good. And that's the best way. The government can still buy the home use tractors. The Planting for Food and Jobs, when the fertilizer came, some of the farmers came and picked the fertilizer. They have the money to farm. Where to get the tractors were very difficult. So even though if the government can even get the home use tractors, the farmer had the money to farm. Then he established a mechanical service center in the various places. I have money to farm. There's a tractor in the mechanical service center. I will go there with my money. The register them, then I'll pick the tractor, go and farm and pay. That's my suggestion. And one of the presenters also said that there's a problem between buyer and a farmer. That is the mistrust. There can be trust. There can be contract of agreement. Before you go into a business, you need to have a contract of agreement. Then everybody will have interfered that if I cheat this person, then I'll be dealt with. So that's my suggestion. And two, I will have even added that this, where we are from, a child who has born from 8 years started practicing farming up to the end of that person's life. Yes, that is the place where we are from. So if we plow, we cultivate soybeans, rice, maize, granules, and yam. And we are not cultivating a small. Myself, I cultivate more than 100 acres in a year. But upon all that, we also need to, when we had a conference like this, to be talking about technical support. If we don't have the knowledge of going to farm, some people farm by us. You can farm at more or less than you get lost. Like this direct sowing, transplanting, and broadcasting. Some people need to, to know how it goes. Some people use one land to plow to cultivate more than 10 years. Whatever it is, you can't get good yield. Then we need to tell the farmers that they have to do this and do this and do this. Other than that, they can, whatever you farm, you can get lost. And two, at our place too, before we get a land to plow, we are renting. Like if I go to somebody who have land, and I want to acquire 10 acres from that person, the person will lease the land to me, but I have to farm 4 acres for that person before leasing the land to me. So it's part of renting. But people didn't take this as a renting, and they thought that they went for the land and they give the land to them. So I want to, all what I have said, I want all the dignitaries to take these reports, give to the government, and we know whether we can get solution to it or not. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think the contributions of the farmers at least further provide more raw material for our research. Now, I want to thank all those who have, brought up some more enlightening issues. And then also I won't have much time to clarify, but I'll just respond to a few of the issues. First of all, I think Honorable talked about size. You remember I also talked about the dilemma of sizes at the beginning, and the problem even within Ghana, that if you go to different ecological zones, you can give different acreages for small size farming, for a smallholder. And also, I'll give you a small, what we were told at Nankuma, right, near Nkoranza. So we asked them, because I'm always interested in participatorily arriving at some of these definitions. So who is the small-scale farmer? So that we could isolate those who had graduated into the middle level. And there was a huge debate.
And they said, okay. So at the end of the day, we had to use two criteria to define who the smallholder was. One was we needed the nature of the crop. Yeah. So they said if you were a watermelon farmer and you had 5 acres, you were actually a large-scale farmer. If you were a tomato farmer who had 5 acres, you are actually a large-scale farmer. Because those are the intensity, right, the resources needed, the irrigation, and what have you, right, the amount of labor you needed. If you aggregated this, you probably were doing 25 acres for cereals. And so we asked someone to do the mathematics, and he even came to 30 acres of maize for 5 acres of tomatoes. The amount of investment you needed and whatever. Then, of course, the other criteria was labor. So where do you use minimal non-family labor, right? So, I mean, who uses minimal non-family labor? And they all agreed, yes. The small-scale farmer would certainly, except for very critical periods, does not go for, you know, non-family labor. They often depended on their own, you know. But there's a problem there because of herbicides, weedicides, right? Because this has reduced labor demands, therefore making that criteria a little bit hazy. But of course, if the census does come up, as Dr. Charles indicated, then we would probably be, you know, more comfortable to talk about sizes. If you go to Upper East region, I bet you a 5-acre farmer in Navrongo is a big guy, because hardly does a whole family have, you know, 5 acres, a whole family of probably different subunits. But if you come to Northern region, you might have 10 acres, right? The other has to do with actively cultivated land. I can have 10 acres, but I only do 5 acres. So it becomes problematic with the kind of instruments that we have for our surveys, right? If you don't think through this, you have a survey which will generate, you know, results that you can use. Also, one correction, the post-harvest losses that we talked about, right? We gave you qualitative information, right, on particular farmers, right, understanding, experience of post-harvest loss. So 70% was a tomato farmer, right? That was even a trader, a tomato trader, right? That is, typically, that is the maximum losses that the traders will make. For a farmer, you even have 100% losses for some farmers, depending on how unlucky you are to harvest your tomato at a particular time period. Averages will not count, and that's why qualitative data becomes important, because we need to understand to what extent can these losses go, right? That is very important. We need a census to provide you with some average figures, right? Then, of course, we decided for this research that for the food system that we looked at, it was going to be too broad, covering all the different dimensions of food. So we decided to limit it to the crop subsector. Then there are details on the dynamics of the distribution sector, right, which we have in the report, right, which we truncated in our presentation. I still see that we might be stuck, which is understandable, in idealistic understandings of the functioning of our institutions, right? And of course, of programs that we implement, that we, of course, they are our baby, so we want to ensure that these are highlighted, that these work out. And we've had several programs on the rice sector. So much money has gone to the rice sector. We all know that. So much money has gone into warehouses, right? So much money has gone even into rural infrastructure. But the point is that we need an evaluation of some of these in order to talk about how functionable, how viable, and whether these are operating or not. And Mr. Baba, I think you just hit the nail on the head. The CADIA project, the CADIA instance, the nice thing about it was that actually the warehouse by the state was being used. It was filled up. That is why private actors decided to build more. But of course, when coming from Tamale, when you are moving out, there's a settlement there. They have their warehouse and it's in tatters, right? With cracks everywhere, never been used since it was built, right? And beyond that, even the villagers talk of the design that came. They actually have a smaller design and poor quality work, right? Meaning that there were some short changes. So in essence, some of these projects probably might have worked in some places and have failed miserably in other places. And we admit that we need to interact more with other state bureaucracies, right? Especially the Food Research, FDB, and a fellow from FDB, you know, did come up to me and say, yeah, this is very interesting. We need to really, these are some of the things we do, but unfortunately, right, we don't, you know, hear some of these things. So after this, we will have a conversation. And our intention was that this workshop, at least Charles should have also explained one thing, that this workshop is supposed to enable us get in touch with institutions, right? And that was why he brought up, so most of our institutional actors have not been interviewed, apart from MOFA, right, and trade. And then the supermarkets. Beyond that, all others have not been interviewed by lineup. Then I think, let me see. Yeah, I think, yeah, Mr. Charles, we can, that was, I mean, very wonderful, you know, vision that SADA had before. It's important we also sometimes try to reflect. I mean, it's a beautiful vision, but there could also be some issues with some visions, especially when it comes to mechanization and whatnot. And the debate about divisibility of mechanization units such as tractors, harvesters, you know, has gone on for some time. And so therefore, this, I mean, aggregation, I often point to block farming, which was implemented by MOFA. If the representative is here, he can even give us some, you know, we went to WA, sent my students to WA to look at block farming, you know, and just 1 year after the end of the program, there was nothing there to show, right? The thing had collapsed, the concept was foreign, right? Because they need, right, our desire to homogenize, this homogeneity ideal, right? We have to realize that we have come from a diversity background, right? And it's difficult. It will take time to sell this idea of being homogeneous, right? The idea of smallholder is about being, strength and diversity. So please, we should conceptualize. And I think project-based, we didn't stress it, but I think project-based is in our political economy analysis of the Ghanaian state, right? And the Ghanaian state, what do they encourage? How do they encourage them? It's basically through the project-based you know, like for instance, the new project that Charles talked about in BA is mainly targeting cashew and the support to cashew. We know what the cocoa has gone through. We know what oil palm has gone through, free seedlings, fertilizers, new cultivars, everything, you know. All right. So thanks very much.
We'll break for lunch. When we come back, we have more time to continue our discussions so that you can all speak on what you can share your experiences from wherever you ply your trade. Thank you. So we take a break at this time. Where are we having lunch? Okay, the same place you went for the coffee break. So, how long?